Hey, welcome to Spiritual Psychology with Renee Mckenna. I'm a therapist and healer here in San Francisco. And if you want real change on a soul level, you've come to the right place.
I don't know where to start.
Well, so do you introduce yourself in the beginning of the show?
Yeah, so welcome to Scotch Talks Podcast. This is your host, Scotch. With us today is a good friend of mine, Renee Mckenna.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, welcome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. I'm not sure what to talk about, where to start.
Well, we were just talking about intentions, right?
Yes.
So, and I have a lot of areas of my life, and I think that the easiest way to tie them all together is through this intention setting work that I did years ago through this book called The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. It's by Stephen Covey, and it's one of the most powerful spiritual books that I know, written in the guise of a business literature. It's really amazing. And one of the exercises in that book is to write a personal mission statement. And I've had the opportunity to start quite a few businesses, many of which have failed. And and it's nice to start a mission, to have a mission statement in when you have an organization, because then you can kind of determine the actions that you're going to take, and you can run them against the mission statement, because the mission statement doesn't change. It's kind of like the core, like why, the intention, right? And so Covey suggests that you write a personal mission statement, and which is like an intention. And so my mission statement that came out of that work was to use all of my gifts and talents for the benefit of the most people and myself. Actually, originally it wasn't and myself. In the last few years, I've added myself into that, which feels really important.
Can you just say that one more time?
Using all of my gifts and talents for the benefit of the most people and myself.
Okay. And do you go into every single situation with that in mind? Do you bring that up?
I wish that I was conscious enough to think about it all the time, although on a regular basis, I do think about it. And it has become kind of a working part of who I am as a person now. And, well, I mean, it fits with my personality, because I'm a very extroverted group, crowd kind of person. I'm a service-oriented person. I love to do stuff for other people. The pathological side of that is that I'm a codependent, and I can care more about caring for other people than I do for myself. But, the healthy, I think, the higher resonance of that is that I can do a lot of good in the world. And so, and adding myself into the equation actually cancels out the codependent piece, the pathological piece, because if I'm involved, if it's just all about you, it's a way to escape myself. But if I include myself in the equation, then the equation tends to be more balanced. Yeah, is my experience.
Nice.
So, I mean, you know me, I can just talk. So, how that has played out for me is, I like to call it the burden of potential, and right. And, I had a lot of different things that I was good at as a kid in school coming up. And, I was good at art. I was good at science. I got the highest chemistry mark and as a senior in high school in my town, which was a pretty big town. I'm really good with people. I was in student government. I was president of my senior class, and so there was a lot of variant ways I could go. Did I want to become someone in the medical community or in environmental science? Did I want to become a politician? Did I want to be an artist? I loved literature. I actually became an English major in college. So the hard thing for me, my parents told me, you can be anything you want. But the hard thing was, like, I had so many fucking things that I possibly could have done. I couldn't make up my mind.
Yeah.
Right. So after high school, I took a gap year and went and worked in a factory because I didn't know what to do.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So, which was really, it was a really instructive experience. It was a really instructive experience on a lot of levels, because So the company that I worked for was particular. It was a Jewish-owned company, a conservative Jewish-owned company, and the two men who had started the company had tattoos from the Holocaust on their arms. They escaped the camps
Oh my God.
at the age of 20 and came to America and started a business.
Wow.
And most of the people who worked there were Jewish immigrants. It was kind of like the UN. It was very interesting. Yeah, all the people that worked in the office, eventually they all spoke English. They all spoke Yiddish, which was how they connected with each other at the conservative temple. And so there was people from Poland, and there was people from Germany, and there was people so they were from all over the world. And it was interesting because the production, all the people in the production department were from Puerto Rico, and all the people down in the shipping department were all from the Philippines.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was interesting. And I was the goyim that worked at front. I was the girl, the white girl, the non-Jewish girl, the goyim. That worked. Girl, he would call me, girl, call that man. So, it was a really, really interesting experience to work for. They all kept kosher, and we kept the Jewish holidays, and
Wow.
Yeah, it was a super dysfunctional family business, but I learned a lot about Judaism and a lot about that I didn't want to work in a factory for $4 an hour for the rest of my life. And it
$4 an
motivated
hour.
me to go. Yeah, when I got a raise, I went to $4.25. Whoa.
Wow.
Of course, this was a long time ago. I'm going to be 55 in a couple minutes, so this was in 1983, way before you were born. So, so anyway, we get off on that. I don't know how we get off on that, but so we were talking. I know this is an art podcast at its essence, right?
At its essence, yes.
At its essence, it's about art. Oh, I was talking about all the different things I did in school. So funny, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. And part of the reason I didn't go to art school was because there were people that were better artists than me. Really. I mean, I was very lucky. I had this fabulous high school that I went to in Weymouth, Mass. And it was super progressive. And I got to take art. I was an art major and an English major. I got to take art every day from 8th grade to 12th grade with a fabulous art teacher. And then, and I took 2 literature classes at least every day. It was a brilliant
Wow.
arts education. But my fragile ego at the time, there were kids that were, I quote unquote, like better artists than me. And so, I mean, I had a lot of things I could tell you about why I didn't want to go to art school. Oh, well, I don't want to make it a hobby, and I don't want to make it into a job. I might not like it. Was crap. Really, I was afraid that there was people better than me, which was really I think it's a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
We feel like we aren't good enough as we are.
Yeah.
And so, and really of essence, like that's what my intention, I think, points to for me. And is that it's not about comparing myself to other people or the gifts and talents that I have. We all have gifts and talents. Everyone has gifts and talents. And finding what those are and being willing to bring the fullest expression of them into the world, I think, is our work as a human. And, my work as a therapist and a psychologist and a spiritual teacher and a shaman and a healer and all the other things that I do is really to help remove the blocks that people have to their authentic self. And all those gifts and talents that we have. Because really it's only in bringing those forward that we find the fulfillment and the happiness and the peace and the joy that we all seek. But I like Will Smith says, God put everything good on the other side of fear. And the fear is usually about fears of our own inadequacy in comparison to our idea of who we think other people are. Generally, I think most people suffer from that. I know I still do. I'm just finishing up my first book. It should hopefully be out in a month. It's going to be called Allies and Demons.
In a month?
It's my goal. It'll be out in a month on Amazon.
Wow.
Allies and Demons. You can find it at reneemckenna.com.
Woo.
And I've been reading some other, psychology, spiritual literature, because it's the work I do is called spiritual psychology, and it's a blend of hypnotherapy and Buddhism and shamanism, and the best, I think, of Western psychology. It's a really potent elixir for healing and transformation for me, and hopefully for those I work for. But I was actually reading some stuff this morning, and I still find myself like this writing is so good. It's so clear and to the point and deep, and I feel that my own work, is inadequate in comparison to that. And I'm working very closely with an editor. She holds my hand every day as we write, because I just can't do it by myself. I've finally realized, which is fine. I can ask for help. And and so we just had this talk this morning that I have a special thing that comes through me. That comes through Renee Mckenna, the age I am, the experience I've had, the voice, and my Boston accent, my fuck you attitude, whatever, and that's what's supposed to come through me. And I have to trust that that's my gift to the world, and that's good enough. It isn't about comparing that I'm not as good as the pathwork of self-transformation or Stephen Covey or Scott Peck or, whoever the other people that I admire their writing is. I have to have the courage to be myself. In fact, my intention recently is for myself, it's more of a goal actually, is I want to become fearless.
Fearless.
I want to become fearless.
How?
I really do. I don't know how you become fearless, but I want to do it.
I feel like fear is always there, but it's just cutting off that part of you that wants to make excuses, right? And then another part just makes you do it, or walks you or runs you through the fear.
Well, fear really, I think, is a boogeyman for the most part. I mean, especially, when I turned 50 5 years ago, I took a retreat in New Mexico. I went to the desert. I love the desert. And I find the desert kind of there's an openness in the space in being able to see for 40 miles and the sparseness of the landscape that just kind of clears away the details that get in the way of life. And and what I felt really clearly, two things. I mean, that's when it became, the first thing was it became very clear to me that I'm here to be myself. I'm not here to be what you want me to be or what my mother wanted me to be or what society wants me to be. My job is to be me. There's only one of me, and I'm going to die. And that was the second thing that happened, was that at 50, I could really see the horizon line. At best, I get another 50, and the last 10 or 15 of those are probably going to be crap, right? So, so I got maybe 35, and I have not done the things that I want to do in this life. I've done a lot of great things, but I haven't done the thing that I feel really pushed myself to do the thing, which is what this book is the start of that. To really be willing to push myself to the edge, to be willing to face my fears and outgrow them. And what's the fear? Fear of failure? Fear of success? Fear of dying? Fear of getting my feelings hurt? Whatever. I've already failed. I've already succeeded. I've already had my feelings hurt. I haven't died yet. Hopefully I only do that once. But, I've already lived through all that stuff. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? I think now what's happened for me is that my biggest fear is that I'll get to the end of my life and give myself a thumbs down. That I'll be on my deathbed and have not done the thing and be disappointed with myself. And that really is my biggest fear. That is a bigger fear than whether people like me or not, or whether I get my feelings hurt, or a bad rating on Amazon, or whatever happens. But there continues to be a lot of growth to be able to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, was that just when you were in Mexico? You had that realization, or have you, because since I've known you for this past year, you've always just been Renee, totally and completely yourself. Were you never not like that?
I think in the context that we know each other, no. I think in the context that we know each other, which is personal growth work and a lot of spiritual work and it's places of great vulnerability. No, I think I think that's been my core place of self-discovery. And I feel so grateful to have, for most of my life, had communities of people who are doing the same thing, who are trying to grow and be the best version of themselves they can be, and really deeply looking at their flaws and their fears and their frailties and trying to work through them. So so that's been modeled to me, and now I know I'm a model for that, just as part of a larger community. So I feel super grateful for that. But in other contexts of my life, so, I use the book as an example. So I hired somebody. I'll just say how it happened. I went on a trip traveling. I was just thinking about it on the way here. Traveling is a clear the deck place.
Yep.
I mean, never mind the desert. I'm actually planning a trip in a couple of months for the same reason. When I get out of my regular routine and I get into a new place, I'm there with fresh eyes. I'm totally in the moment. I know I might never come back here. It's Tuesday at 1:00. Like, whoa, what happens in Belgium at Tuesday at 1? Like, I'm like on it, right? and when I come back to my regular life, like, I feel like it brings up, in some ways, my best version of myself.
Yeah.
Super present, super excited, engaged with what's happening, people, places, things.
Uh-huh.
And then I get back into my routine life, and all the things that don't support that become painfully obvious.
Uh-huh.
Like, if it feels like I have to like squish myself back down into the box of my life, I have often had made radical changes to my life after taking a big trip. I've left relationships, I've quit jobs, I've moved. Realizing that having had that experience for a week or 2 or 3 of my kind of optimal way of living, I want to live that now.
Mm-hmm.
And we get choices. We can. If I'm unhappy, I need to make some changes. There's nobody else to blame for that. So, what happened when we got back from this trip? We went to Europe. I took my kids. I have 2 kids, and I took my kids. We went to 5 countries in 17 days. It was an awesome trip, and so I get back, and I remember it was a day like today. We're in San Francisco. It's a beautiful, clear day, and we live near the ocean. And I was out on my deck, and I was looking at the ocean and my beautiful house. And I have another house in the East Bay. I have 2 houses, 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 trucks. I get 2 of fucking everything, and I'm miserable. Like I felt this like almost suicidal feeling. Like I don't like my life, and I had, the work I do is very visual, uses the active imagination a lot as a bridge between the outer world and the inner world, between the world of spirit and the non-physical realities of our own truth, of our emotions, of greater consciousness, and bringing those into our own little brain. For me, it's very visual. Different people have different ways. So I often have images happen to me, and work a lot with archetypes and guides and teachers and angels and all kinds of different things. And so as I was sitting there and I was on the phone with somebody like, why do I want to die? Something's wrong here. What do I need to change? And this image of myself at the end of my life, this image of myself as an old person came. Like very clear. I can still feel it. She's over here. She's on the right. She's happy with me right now. But she was like, girl, you can either do the thing and get a thumbs up, or you cannot do the thing and get a thumbs down. And like, at the end of the day, when I'm on my deathbed, I don't get a second chance to be Renee Mckenna doing this.
And just to be clear, what is the thing? So
the thing at that point was, so they felt like 2 choices. One was my profession and one was my personal life. And there was definitely limitations happening in both. I've been doing the therapy work that I do for a long time. But, I have a little home office. I certainly am not using all my gifts and talents. And the other was my personal life and my home and my marriage. And so I was like, do I write my book or do I leave my husband? And so I was like, I'm going to write the book first. Subsequently, I actually have left my husband, but there's an order of operations apparently. And so writing the book came first. So it's an interactive universe. I believe in higher good, and I believe that there's a whole realm of grace that's there to support our highest good. And so I started to talk about it. I started to do some research. I have a friend who works in publishing, and I'll just say within 2 weeks, I had a writing support group, and I had a ghostwriter. And I had a talk with him because at that point, I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I had kind of been trying. I had like 25 starts of writing this book. I just couldn't do it by myself. And he said to me, okay, so we can probably do 6 months, 6 to 8 months. and this is how much I charge. And I had exactly that amount of money in my bank account. It was all my savings. It was every penny of my savings, but I had exactly the amount. And so I was like, okay, I'm not a huge signs and symbols person, but maybe I am. You know, I was like, all right. So I wrote the big fat check, and we spent 8 months writing the book. And I got a 269-page transcript at the end that was technically publishable. And I hated it. I couldn't even read it. I couldn't even look at it. I read the first chapter and I was like, oh my God, I would never read this book.
Did you just think that that was maybe just you?
No.
Or did you run it by other people?
No, I didn't show anyone. I said, if I don't love this book, I can't put it out. And so I'm bringing this back to what the question was. So in the process of writing that book, it was basically like the core text of, it's the book I have now, only the book, The Allies and Demons is much more condensed. And I think it's going to be shorter and more put it to the point. But one of the things when you're writing, and I think it happens all the time unconsciously when we're out, is the idea of how am I presenting myself to people, right? How am I presenting myself? And in my work, we talk a lot about having a mask, a social mask, a sexual mask, a friendship mask, a family mask, like that we put on these different masks to be who we think other people want us to be. Or even our own idealized self-image of who we think we are, who we think we want to be, that may not be actually that connected with what's true, depending on how unconscious and how, that's a bummer. The further you are away from your authentic self, the more of a bummer it is, really. But anyway, the way the book was written, we had, I was a little bit up in the air about it, but the way the book was written was from this place of authority. Like, Renee Mckenna, therapist for 30 years, speaks to you from, and I hate that, that idea, there's a hierarchy. It's like, I'm well and you're sick, or I'm the doctor and you're the patient. And that's crap. Like, I'm a human. I'm more fucked up than most people I know. Like, I'm still doing this work. I got a lot of bags. I'm still unpacking. I have a tremendous amount of experience, and tremendous transformation and healing has happened for me. So I know that I am an example. But there was this question: do I swear? How do I dress? Like, do I put on the white coat like they do on the commercial for Excedrin PN and pretend like I'm a doctor and tell you that this is my authoritative opinion? People are very influenced by that stuff, right? They are. Or do I wear my like heavy metal t-shirt and like say the F word like I was raised in Boston and I was thinking, do I get this little mole taken off my face? Do I try to lose my accent? Like, do I try to become a more acceptable version of myself? That was the question. And the way that book was written, all 269 pages of it were from a mask. And so, I've spent the last year rewriting it in my own authentic voice. And so I will tell you that the writing of that book in that way did come from some experience. I had an opportunity in January of 2017 to step out in a very public way. I was lead of Women's March, San Francisco, and there was a lot of things that went down in that process. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, and I'm so grateful to have been able to be a part of facilitating that amazing event that ended up being, of course, a worldwide event for like 7 million people. Yeah. But there was also, when you put yourself, as a privileged white woman, putting myself out as the face of an event that stands for social justice, there was some really venomous attacks on me just as a figurehead that were quite terrifying and upsetting from different communities and demographics in the Bay Area who have been disenfranchised and victimized and brutalized for centuries, and I was the person that they could shoot at. And so there was this, out of that experience was the idea, well, like, if I'm going to really step out in a public way, how do I do that in a safe way? How do I do that? Like, do I be an authority? So it felt almost like a political thing. And I mean, so it's been a lot of contemplation about that, about my package, my brand, like, who am I going to be? And, happy to report that the brand is just going to be me. Now, and how I protect myself is to come from a place of truth and compassion.
How does one go about finding their authentic self?
So
that's a big question.
It's a big question. I have a lot of answers for that question. I mean, I think really the authentic self is always here, right here where we are. And the easiest fastest direct route is really just to sit quietly with yourself and to observe what's happening. I like, you were asking me a little bit earlier about writing stuff down. Like I like to think about the chakra energy systems, if people aren't familiar with that. So in Chinese medicine and a lot of Eastern medicine, there's like different ideas of different chakras. So there's one at the top of our head, one between our eyebrows, one at our throat, our heart, one at our solar plexus, one just below our belly button, and one at the base of our spine. And each of them has a slightly different personality, or has a different attribute, holds different intentions in the world, and not just in our body, but our body, those parts of our body are all metaphors for different ways of being in the world. And so most of us spend most of our time in our head. Mm-hmm. Right? Most of our time is spent in our head. And so, and it's a valid place, right? There is a lot, and that's pretty much the place between your eyebrows, right? Like there is a place. But to open up spiritually, like, how do I feel spiritually? What does that even mean to me? I think it's about asking questions and then listening for the answer that comes from within us. My throat is my voice. What do I have to say to myself, to other people? Am I full of self-hatred and criticism and judgment and fear? Am I full of love and compassion and forgiveness and inspiration or wisdom? What's happening in my heart? Like, if I really bring my awareness down into my chest, how am I feeling? It's really about discovery. Like, how do we find? It is really about like finding our authentic self. I think it's masked for most of us. And to have that inquiry, like, how am I actually feeling in my heart? I know I didn't have access to my heart for a really long time. It was closed. It just wasn't safe to be there. Like, physically, actually, I did stuff in yoga to try to open it. And what's happening in our gut, in our belly, that's where a lot of people feel their anxieties, their fears, their guilt, their shame. And, you drop further down, like below your belly button, that's the area of creativity. I mean, you may not feel it, but what is your inspiration? What inspires you? What is your creative bent? What is the thing that you bring and make in the world? And it doesn't have to be physical art. Mm-hmm. Some people, their creativity is loving children. Some people, their creativity is to facilitate safety in groups. Some people's creativity is growing plants. Or making food. I mean, those are kind of obviously creative, I think, but maybe not. Maybe people don't think of those as art. People might limit it just to a 2-dimensional thing that goes on the wall or a 3-dimensional thing that sits on a desk. So I think that finding the authentic self comes from continued inquiry into the self. And it's really, because I personally believe we are all connected with the divine, with this greater oneness, Atman, whatever you want to call it, life force. It's a verb, and we're all connected with it. And so as we plumb deeper into ourselves, it really is a bottomless pit. I don't think it's a pit. Pit's bad. But, it's a bottomless, it's an endless, it's an infinite adventure what is our authentic self and what's it tied to and what can come through that. So it's about questions. And if the answers to those questions are, I don't know, then you need to spend more time sitting because the answers are there. Does that answer your question?
Maybe. I'm going to have to sit with that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You want to talk about art?
I guess.
We'll talk about art. So,
I mean, yeah.
Well, I like to tell my art stories fun. So I talked about, high school. I didn't go to art school. And one of the things, I'm a really good copyist. And again, I had this attitude of like other people's art is better than mine. Mm-hmm. But I like it when people say, ooh, that's really good. That was most of my art was done with that in mind of getting your approval, of you to tell me that it was good. And then that was some kind of affirmation of me as a person somehow. But so I really didn't do much art. I certainly didn't have my own voice as an artist. And I took a couple art classes in college. And, one really instructive moment, I might have already told you the story. We were doing a realistic drawing. It was actually a complicated piece of machinery. We were all drawing it from different perspectives. And the teacher came up to me after and he looked at my drawing and he said, it's technically very good, but it's not art. And I knew right then what he was talking about. I knew it. It was, some people might think he was mean. I was kind of like mean teachers, actually. They tell the truth. And, but I knew what he meant. It was technically good, but there was no heart connected with it. There was no essence of me connected with it. It was really done so that he would say, that's really good. It wasn't me coming out on the paper. And so it was a pivotal moment for me as an artist. And I didn't do art for a really long time. And even up to that point, most of the art that I had done, it would be for gifts for people, and I would mostly copy stuff that I liked. I would copy other people's artwork and give it as a gift to someone. And I had these kids, and we started to go to this kind of down and dirty preschool, and they always put me on the art table with the 2 to 4 year olds. And it was so amazing, and it was the kind of place where this wasn't about creating projects. They would just throw a bunch of like they would throw tinfoil and glitter and glue and paint on the table. And then the kids could do whatever they wanted with it, kind of a stuff. There was always they would throw different materials down and sometimes they'd have an idea, but the kids could make whatever they want. So I was with all these kids just totally psyched to put glitter all over the left side of their face and paint their hair and make these complicated things that look like poo, and then they tell you, well, this was a giraffe and he has a spaceship, and then the shark ate his toes, and then the dog came, and and they had these whole elaborate internal processes that was coming out in these external messes that the kids were making with these beautiful colors. It was all about process and so much fun. And it opened up this creativity, artistic part of me that I have no memory of it being open. It probably was when I was very little, but my parents were pretty uptight. So, anyway, and I got this, someone sent me a video, I don't know who, and I still show it to people all the time. It's called Prodigy of Color. It's about this girl, Aaliyah. Oh, I should know her last name. I can't think of it. And, it's a video of her when she was 4, and she has artist parents. They're from Australia, and she is a gifted artist. She's actually still, I think she's 12 now. She's a quite well-known artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, anyway, it's about a 15-minute video, and it changed my world. I watched this little girl pour paint and drop stuff into the paint and dance around these huge canvases and tell those stories like the preschool kids were doing, but the art was fabulous. And
wow.
It was art. She was making art. It wasn't a good drawing. It was art. And honest to God, I went out that evening and I went in the backyard with a canvas and I started throwing paint and dropping stuff into it. And I haven't done much with a paintbrush since then because my intention at that point was I needed to break my perfectionism and I needed to break this idea of doing something so that you would like it. And so that it could be more what it was that wanted to come through me. And it opened up this whole way to do art. And to go back to my original intention of using my gifts and talents for the benefit of the most people. So this preschool is a big preschool. It's one of the biggest co-op preschools in San Francisco. It's called Playmates. And it's out in the outer Sunset. And there are 90 families there. It's a big preschool and a big campus and fabulous place, but it looked like crap. I mean, the building was awful. It needed painted. It was dirty. And the physical plant was a wreck. And the one thing I am good at is making things beautiful. So, as I sat with the kids in this place that had so much heart and so little visual, I thought, what can I do here? And I started to see murals on the walls. And so I asked them if I could paint. Can I paint this wall? And I made a proposal, and they said yes. And so over the course of 5 years, I did make 8 major art installations there.
Wow.
Including a giant, there's a mural there that's about 200 square feet.
Wow.
And so I started to do art in a public way to benefit other people. And I liked it too because it was kind of anonymous. It wasn't like being in an art class holding the thing, being like, do you like this? It was like, no one had to know. So that really also opened me up as an artist and also started my love of public art. And a lot of the art I do is pre-approved, and a lot of the art I do is not. So, I like to go out in the middle of the night and spray paint stuff.
Yeah.
Not in a destructive way. Often what I do is I spray paint over graffiti and try to make it beautiful. So that's some of my art story. And from that, it gave me the courage to start, I was paint pouring, which is super fun. I love to paint.
What is that?
Paint pour is, so from these big murals that I did, I was painting on the side of buildings. So I was using high gloss exterior paint, which is incredibly durable and you can get in any color. So, and because I was painting primarily murals for kids, I love bright colors anyway. I had all these quarts of bright colors, huge, bright, bold colors in this exterior acrylic latex. And so that's what I started to, because I was overrun with the paint, that was what I would pour. So I literally pour it out of the can, or I pour it into smaller. I bought 2 cases of ketchup bottles, and I poured all the paint in those, and I could squirt the paint.
Oh, wow.
And so that's really, and then dropping, I love collage painting. I started to collect all these beads and feathers and drop stuff into the paint to see what it does to make it more 3-dimensional. Again, kind of echoing these kids that are probably now in middle school that really inspired me with these different kinds of art. And the thing about paint pouring that I really like is that working with the paint is like working with another entity. Because if you pour 4 colors next to each other, or pour a color and then pour a color on top of it, it has its own personality. It does its own thing. And you can tip the canvas and use gravity. And that it's not, I can have some idea, but the paint has its own ideas. So it almost feels like collaborative art, working with the paint and the materials.
I just did something like that the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, pour paints on top of each other and just let them dance together as I, put them upright and let gravity have its way.
Spraying water and other chemicals on it too adds a whole other thing, which is really fun. Yeah, each thing you add into it adds its own thing. And then you can add heat or wind. I use a blow dryer a lot, blow stuff around. Yeah, it's really
cool.
Yeah, there's you're working with the elements to collaborate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, I'll have to see what you did after. You'll have to post it with your...
No. No, it does not look good, but it was fun. So yeah. I've just been getting more into that, taking scratch paper and painting. I got a full box of paint 2 years ago from a friend who didn't need it anymore. And I've just been going off of that, and half of it's dry and gone now, but
Even dry paint is interesting. So you can stick chunks of paint into the paint.
Oh, interesting.
Like to get through. I mean, it's fine. I kind of try to work with whatever's there just to see.
Yeah.
Like the paint will get a skin on it, and I'll like pull the skin off and slap it in there, and it adds like interesting crinkly elements to it. And slowly I've been working. You know, I did some abstract. I haven't done any abstract stuff in a while, but then I started to use the paint pouring more for directive art. And you know, I had people ask me, would you paint this painting for me? Sure. I started to do what I had done historically, to paint pictures for somebody for like their birthday or an anniversary or wedding gift or whatever. And so I started to actually make more of the art that's probably, because I'm more of a semi-realist than an abstract person. And so I started to gather up some paintings, and then, you know, of course, in San Francisco, we have the open studios every fall, which is fabulous. And I had a friend. Do you know about open studio?
No.
Oh my God, he doesn't know about open studios. So San Francisco, in September, October, November, has open studios every year, and each week or couple of weeks, different sections of the city are opened for open studios. And you can either have an open studio of your own, like you could have an open studio here, or you can be part of a collective open studio, and there are people that gather together. And so sometimes they're in people's homes, in businesses, or in actual art studios that people will open. There's a whole, so the open studios, who's it done? Artspan is who runs it.
Oh, Artspan, okay.
Artspan runs it, and they'll help you find other people to collaborate with. They have a huge catalog that comes out. They do a lot of promotion for it. And there's people that do open studios every weekend as patrons, and will go to every open studio all over the city, or, you know, out here in the Outer Sunset in the Richmond. So we get 1 or 2 weekends out here.
Oh, wow.
And it's cheap to get in. It's like $100. I mean, it depends what you do. And of course, if you want to buy an ad and blah, 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 it can be more. So it was a little bit after that, you know, a couple years had gone by, and I was actually working with wire sculpture at that point.
Cool.
Through this Buddhist meditation called the Jewel Tree, which is a really inspiring meditation. I was teaching art to kids in 1st and 2nd grade. So I was always looking for art projects for the kids. That started a whole other thing for me, because as I would look for projects for them, I was really immersed in looking at what people were doing. And so I started to do some of the stuff myself. So anyway, I started to do these jewel trees, and one of my friends said, oh, I'm doing open studios. And like yourself, I was like, what is that? And so she told me, and I said, oh, could I do it with you? And she said, well, I'm a painter, so I don't really want any paintings. Do you have anything 3-dimensional? And I was like, yeah, I have these sculptures. So I whipped up a couple more, and I brought them over to her house and made little cards and set them up, and I sold 4 of them. Wow. I know. Very inspiring. So I was like, oh, dude, that was good. So that was fun. So and then I did open studios again the next year, and had another big, I mean, the next year I sold like 15 pieces of art. And so that inspired me to start to do shows. And then I started to use that. I'm a deadline person. I like to have I like to have a goal. Mm-hmm. And if I have a deadline, it will make me do it. Because I don't just do art because I need to do art. Because otherwise it fills up my garage. So I got to have a reason to do it. And so as I started to sell art, I started to do more shows. I started to create more stuff. And then over time, you know, I have a pretty big inventory. I mean, I think I have about 30 paintings out now showing in different places.
Yeah.
And I just had someone last week that wants me to show in a framing store that they have over in Oakland. And I had two different people ask me I had kind of an art day last week. 2 different people asked me to commission pieces for them. Cool. Yeah. So, nice. So my art's pretty exciting. I'm still not, I mean, my goal of where I want to get to is I want to find a way to paint pour realistic portraits of people. Yeah. To blend the paint pouring and the looseness of that with a realistic portrait of a person. that I haven't got there yet, but that is my life goal.
Wow.
Yeah, because I love to paint people. I've been experimenting. I just did, we're part of an art salon that's every 2 months, the San Francisco Art Salon. And so, which was another dream of mine to start that. We've had 3 of them. They've been super successful. And we're going to have another one in April out in the Richmond district. And so we need to get an Eventbrite page or something so people can look it up.
Yeah.
It will be. You can search San Francisco Art Salon and you'll find it. And
what?
Yeah, it is
I
on
didn't even know
Eventbrite.
that.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
Eventbrite.
Wow.
That's I need to make up a new one for the April. Whatever the second Sunday in April is, that's the date it will be.
Do you think that will move to a different spot eventually?
I don't know. I mean,
Because I thought that was like a closed group. I didn't even know that was
oh no,
open.
it's on Eventbrite. We've actually had some
What?
random people come. Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, how cool.
I
Okay.
think, yeah. So, through that salon too, I mean, I'm a group-centered person, so through the salon and me encouraging other people to kind of push their growing edge, I just did some photography. I'm going to do more photography, working around with the human body. I really like working with nudes. I'm interested in erotic art. I'm a little bit interested in the kink community and how that can work into art. So as I explore myself, looking for ways to express that, and it gets back to that similar. So I was like, I'm Mrs. McKenna. I'm the art teacher at St. Gabriel's School for 9 years. This is my first year I didn't teach.
Wow.
And so, it's been a question mark of how do I explore my own very adult art, because a lot of the stuff I'm interested in is sexuality and violence and a lot of the life experience that I don't want my 4th graders to know about.
Yeah, that's probably best.
And how to explore those things without how do I do that and not like horrify children who might be following me on Instagram or and so actually one of the things I've done is I have a pseudonym.
Ah.
Yeah, I have a pseudonym.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Wait, did I? I don't know.
I don't know if you know. Yeah, so I have a pseudonym, which I can say on here because I don't know if there's any 4th graders listening.
No.
So Ravona White Magic is my pseudonym.
How do you spell that?
Ravona.
Ravona.
Ravona. And
White Magic.
White Magic with a K. Yeah. And the name Ravona actually came from Russia because Ravona means raven in Russia.
Ah.
And I spent some time in Russia. And they love to name people pet names, and so I was Ravona. Yeah. I was also Zaychik, which means rabbit, which is a whole different story.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that's my solution to that. I have a FetLife page. I haven't posted a lot on that because I've just really started to look at erotic art and the more adult themes of art, which fascinate and excite me. But I'm still against that like social mask a little bit. And, because I also had an art nonprofit for 6 years called Art in Every Classroom. And that was actually how we supported the art program at the kids' school. And because the Catholic school didn't have any money. So we used it, so we received grants and then we gave away grants. We gave away over $100,000 in 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, to classrooms to benefit about probably 50,000 children.
Holy crap.
Yeah, in the Bay Area and also in South Sudan, Africa, and Haiti. Yeah.
How do you do all of this? What the heck?
That's a secret. Yeah, see, there's a lot. Those are all my, so using
That's a secret.
all of my gifts and talents for the benefit of the most people. Right?
Literally every time I talk to you, it's like something new that's
Some
just
new thing.
like
You didn't
crazily
know. You didn't
done.
know I was the director of a foundation. Yeah, we folded it up. My goal had been to get a standing art program at the school that my daughter is at now. She's in 7th grade there now. And we started when she was in kindergarten. And last year they actually brought an on-staff art teacher on.
Wow.
And so, and this year they created an art room. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in magic. And I believe that when we set our intentions and have perseverance, or how I like to say, perseverance, and have perseverance and singleness of purpose, and are willing to put our own, again, we get back to the chakras, have my intention, which is from my head, and my intention, which is from my heart, and my intention, which is from my belly, which is more my actions, then we can make shit happen. And so it's not all me, but certainly not. But yeah, so there's a standing art program there now, and I could quit. So I stopped teaching art, and for this year, and it's so cute. You know, the kids. This is so nice. Every time I go to school, the kids say, Ms. McKenna, will you teach art next year? We don't like the new art teacher. She's not as nice as you are. She makes us do these things. You let us do whatever we wanted. We really want to. So they're begging me to do art next year. I might do it when they're in 8th grade. That'll be their last year. I might do it again. It's a lot of work, but anyway. But it's also it is very inspiring for me too. I mean, that was the whole, there's like a spiritual law that I like to say, all good service serves the server. Mm-hmm. So whenever we do service, if I feel depleted or exhausted or resentful after I do service, it's bad service. I shouldn't be doing it. Whether it's me or whether it's who I'm serving, it's bad service. If I do service, I should feel fulfilled and joyful. It should add to my life. And in whatever way it does, whether it adds to my life monetarily or with inspiration or relationship or my health or how I feel, all good service should serve the server. And so, you know, teaching art has absolutely been, you know, exponentially informative and helpful in my own blossoming as an artist. So I don't copy anybody anymore. I haven't copied a painting in over 10 years, and I never will again. I'll never copy anybody's art because I finally found my own voice. Yeah, and it's still in formation. It's not where I want it to be, but it is fun. That's a lot. It's fun. I love playing with color, and I like people. I'm in a position, luckily, where I have a couple places that just show my art for free, and people buy it, which is even better. Yeah, I sold 2 paintings this month. So nice. It is nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like I got like $4,000 or anything, a couple $100, but
Yeah, I was walking around the other day and I stumbled upon them at the center.
At the graduate center, yeah.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. No, I've raised my prices over time instead of like.
Does that scare you?
What?
Raising your prices?
Not anymore. I mean, that's part of growing into your whole self. No, because at first I would be like, would you buy this 25 cents? Kind of thing, right? Like, oh, I can't believe anybody would buy it. And then as I started to really think about, my time and valuing myself, valuing my time, and how, for me, how to price the painting. I kind of have an hourly rate. Because I worked as an hourly rate person for so long, I kind of have an hourly rate, and I kind of base the price of the painting a little bit on my hourly rate, size, what the canvas costs. Yeah. And, well, I'm looking forward now. We have a friend, Shane, who's a very talented artist, and she's been... So she's been doing a lot of drawings. She sends me doodles every day. And I asked her if I could use some of her doodles as a basis for paintings. She's been drawing angels.
Oh, cool.
And so I asked her, I might even make that the theme of I might make it Angels and Demons, the theme of the art show for April. But, because design is not, I'm not confident as a designer. I'm like meh. give myself a B as a designer. No, that's why I like to look at other people's art. So anyway, I asked Shane if I could use some of her angel paintings as a basis for paintings. And now what I need to do in the next month is create the art. I need to create the cover art for my book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is kind of exciting. Yeah. It was funny because I asked Shane, would you help me? Because she's a designer. I said, would you help me design the cover for my book? And I gave her the title. And so it's Allies and Demons, and the subtitle is Spiritual Power for Healing and Transformation. Accessing Spirit for Healing and Transformation. And so after I asked her that, I kind of sketched out a rough design for the cover, and then she sent me hers, and they're the same. Yeah, we both
so
sketched out
crazy.
the same cover for the book. So
So
that's
crazy.
that's the cover for the book. Yeah.
So what are you gonna do with the sketches? Like, are you gonna?
I'll paint them.
Okay.
I'm gonna paint pour them. Yeah, I feel like, I have this blue. There's a sky blue out here. I can see it actually today. There's a sky blue in the center of a midday Northern California sky that's become my favorite color. It's like that deep sky blue. It's
so crazy.
It's amazing color. And so I want to do, I'm thinking like blues, greens, purples on the demon side, and then on the allies side, like yellow, red, orange, kind of blending of those. So it'll be, so blue and orange, complementary colors, more or less. Yeah. A little green and purple in there. Yeah. I like complementary things. So makes everything. Can you hear that noise? Pop.
Yeah. I just saw a big spike on the thing.
There it is. Spiky. Yeah. So I can't reveal all my secrets. There's more. We'll have to wait for the next. Anything else?
I don't know. Let's see. I just kind of like.
What's our timing?
It is 2:06.
Okay.
We have about like 10 more minutes.
Great.
10 more minutes.
Yeah. It's totally fine.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to tell you a story since we brought up
we
brought up Women's March. I went to a lecture at City Arts and Lectures last week, I guess it was, and this woman, Rebecca Tracer, she's a what is she? She's a political reporter. She followed Hillary Clinton through the election, and she just wrote a book called Good and Mad. Really intelligent woman.
Good and Mad.
Good and Mad, yeah. She's talking about channeling women's anger in service of social justice. More or less, that's the basic idea. And, I sat there, and again, super intelligent woman. It was a really thoughtful discussion, and she knows everyone who's everything. And she's actually had her own personal interaction with the Me Too Harvey Weinstein thing where he attacked her. And like, she kind of is in it. She knows everyone. Yeah, really interesting person. And so, again, she followed Hillary through the election. Anyway, and so it was interesting listening, and a lot of people were like, yeah, I have to say, I was uninspired. I was uninspired because I don't feel like anger is the path to transformation.
So that's what she's...
Kind of. I mean, they're looking at channeling the anger. I mean, this is where Women's March went to, was taking the anger that what happened at the end was it became about the anger and the outrage.
Yeah.
And then how do we channel that in this way of resistance, right? Which absolutely, we need people resisting. Absolutely. That is a very important thing to do. It's just not what I'm interested in. And, I love to tell this story because it's a beautiful story and it's inspiring to me, even though I lived it. So, I watched the election unfold, and I'm not a very political person. In fact, I'm such a sensitive person. I have a lot of trouble. I have to be very careful how much news I actually expose myself to because I take it into my body. It's too upsetting. And a lot of it is not not even the news itself, but the intention of those who are producing the news it's based on trying to get ratings and greed and manipulation, and outrage actually gets people to do more hits and all that. And I can feel all of that. I hate being manipulated, but I can be manipulated. I hate where people are like creating emotions in me for their own benefit. It all just feels really unhealthy.
Yeah.
So I like to know what's going on in the world, but very little happens that's important that I don't find out about at some point. So anyway, but I was very interested in the election, and so I was watching it unfold, and I think a lot of people were, well, there was kind of, I think on one side there was just a belief of like, oh well, it's obvious who's going to win. And I have to say, being brought up by gun-toting Tea Party Republican parents, that I wasn't so sure about that. And so when I watched what went down on election night, like I wasn't shocked, but I was certainly disturbed. And listening to the echoes of what's now becoming this ridiculous bid for a wall, and the institutional racism that's just like out on the table now. I mean, it's horrifying to me. And so I woke up in the morning after the election, and I have a long time spiritual practice. It changes from week to week of what it is, but I usually do some kind of prayer and meditation, and so I just said, show me what to do. What can I do? How can I use my gifts and talents for the highest good of everyone involved? And I had no idea what that meant. I didn't do anything politically except vote during that whole thing, and I maybe send Hillary $100 or whatever, So I just did that every day. So the election was on Tuesday. I started that Wednesday morning, and Saturday morning I woke up and I was still looking at Facebook, which was where I was getting a lot of my news at that point, the echo chamber of Facebook, and
chamber of Facebook,
the echo chamber, and so and I saw this thing, and they called it the Million Woman March in Washington D.C. And I had this feeling go through my body, which I now know that 5 million other people had at the same time, and I said, I'm going. And I looked at my calendar. Do I have anything on January 21st? I don't. And I booked a plane flight to go to Washington, D.C. And I posted it on Facebook. And within an hour, I had 50 hits of people. What is it? I want to go. What do I do? And so I spent the rest of the day kind of responding to people. And the responses got more. It was going out more. And I could see there was a viral thing happening. I tried to call the then completely fledgling Women's March organization. There was no answer. There was no emails coming back. They were 4 people who didn't even sit together. And so that night I started a Facebook group. And because I thought so many people want to go, I'll give everybody a central place where they can talk about ride sharing and places to stay and blah, blah, blah. And in the morning I woke up and there were 1,000 members on it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had never had I was like, oh, this must be like a viral experience. And so, and throughout the day, it just got more and more of people interested, and the buzz got bigger. And at 3 p.m, I got a phone call from someone who said, I'm from Women's March. I noticed you started a Facebook page and used our image. Who are you and what do you want? Mm-hmm. And so I told him, I just want to be helpful. I'm trying to facilitate the people in the Bay Area who might want to go. It's a long way and blah, blah, blah. And so we talked for a couple minutes, and she realized that I was legit and not a nutcase. Well, at least she doesn't think I'm a nutcase. And at the end of the conversation, she said, would you be willing to lead Women's March San Francisco? And I said, I guess that's the answer to my prayer. What can I do? Mm. And so I said yes. Mm-hmm. And that started, really, that was a catalyst. I mean, we spent the next 7 weeks putting together an event that should have taken a year to put together. And we had this fabulous team. It was this amazing experience. At the end, the Facebook page had 80,000 members. And I got to go and sit in Civic Center and watch the helicopters overhead. And I remember one of the police, who became my buddy, because we had to have a lot of meetings with the city and everything. And he said, Renee, once the crowd gets to this place where it is right now, that means we've capped 100,000. That's what we gauge. And I said, welcome to my Women's March party. And what it did was it really affirmed something. I'm from Boston, and John F. Kennedy is one of my personal heroes. And he said, every person really can make a difference, and every person should try. Mm. And I think that is what we're supposed to do with whoever we are, whatever our gifts and talents are. We're supposed to find them, and we're supposed to bring them out for the service of all of us, because we really are all connected. And that is the path to joy and fulfillment. It's the only one that I know. So I'm still trying to trudge it. And whether Women's March was the preview of things to come for me, or whether that was a pinnacle moment, remains to be seen. But I'm stepping out, baby.
Mm-hmm. What would you like to happen?
What would I like to happen? There's a wave. There's a lot of talk about shifting the consciousness.
Yeah.
I think our culture is really unhealthy. I think that people are desperate and suffering and loneliness and materialism and consumerism and fear of the future, and disconnected from the essence of life and from the beauty and the connection that's possible, and within themselves and in the greater community and in the world. And so I feel like I already am part, but I think I'd like to be a bigger part of this wave that I think is happening of a call to deepen our experience, to get more honest and more real and more vulnerable, and to surrender to life rather than to try to master it. I think that's our appropriate relationship, is to be more in surrender to what's happening, rather than fighting and resisting. And so, I mean that on the ultimate reality, not like the Donald Trump reality or whatever, so, what would I like to happen? So what would I like to happen? I ultimately, if I think big, I would like to teach in Europe. I would like to write. I mean, out of every time I sit down to write, I find another book I feel like I need to write. So there's like 20 books that I want to write. I have a feeling one of them will probably be a book that's very helpful. I would love it if one of my books could be as helpful to other people as some of the books that I have read have been helpful to me. So I hope that what can come through me can really help and change people's lives. The processes that come through this work are incredibly transformative, and I would like to bring those out to as many people as are open to receiving them. My goal has been, I love to travel, and I would love to have, a place in the East Coast. I would love to have a place in Europe. I'm going to Germany in April to kind of spy it out. I've heard the Germans might be very interested in this work, so hopefully I'll have book in hand and be able to do a little work in Germany and see if that's a foothold in Europe for me. I have my own podcast, Spiritual Psychology, which you can find on almost every major carrier. And I actually do, I'm going to put in a little plug. So I do free therapy online for people to really demonstrate this work of spiritual psychology and the transformation that it offers. And so, if anybody who's listening here is interested, I do sessions over the phone. I record them. They can be anonymous. We don't need to use your name. And then I put them up on my podcast, and usually do a little bit of talking about what the specific healing modality is, whether it's inner child work or power retrieval or soul part exchange, healing from trauma, healing from depression, anxiety. So that's my plug. I would love it. I would love to have like some kind of a syndicated radio show. That would be like, I would love that because I love to talk, as you can tell. And I'd like to be able to, another goal would be if I could have my artwork in places where I was selling like 2 pieces a month. If I could sell like 2 pieces of art a month and just have a rolling flow with my artwork going out so that I had a reason to paint a couple paintings a month. That would be, so that's my hopes for the next 30 years. I do expect the next 25 years to be the most productive of my life.
Wow.
I do. I was talking today, as a matter of fact, one of my girls is really into astrology, which is not a thing I'm into, but I'm in Aries, and apparently Chiron just moved into Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer, and Chiron has moved into Aries and will be there for the next 7 years. So I will be 62 in 7 years, and I expect 62 to 80 to be my best years. I'm going to be on fire.
That's badass.
It is. I'm dying. I'm getting my tattoo. I'm going tomorrow to get my I am tattoo-less at 55, and I've decided I'm going to get a full sleeve tattoo with all of my sacred symbols on it. Yeah. Yeah, as I step out into the world. So not only are they with me, but they create the space everywhere I go. Yeah.
I want to see that.
You will see it, dude. She's going to draw it out for me tomorrow. We're going to spend 2 hours, and then I'm going to spend the next probably year and a half getting it done piece by piece.
Really quick, what's your thought on tattoos? Because my mother, who's around the same age as you, like, tattoos are forbidden and, like, the worst thing that somebody can do to themselves or their bodies. Like, what is
the worst thing you can do for yourself in your body is you can be in a dead relationship that you hate, eating bad food and watching bad TV. That's the worst thing you can do. So
that's so true.
I think tattoos are, the way I'm getting this tattoo is I've realized, I didn't realize till I started to talk to the artist, that this is very much of an ancient traditional way to get tattoos, that I am using them as empowered symbols on my body for protection and for power. So, which is, I think, having running with bikers a lot of my life, that's a lot of what tattoos are for people is symbolic protection, for power and shielding. But it's also, it's a tremendous, to use your body as expressive art, I think is beautiful. Now, there's a lot of ugly ass tattoos out there, and I'm like, really? You want to get 2 lemons on your boobs? Like, that's bad, girl. I've seen some bad tattoos, okay? But there's bad art, in my opinion, too, right? That's just my opinion. If you like your lemons, you go right ahead with your bad self. So, what do you think about tattoos?
Oh, I want them. I want tattoos. I want plugs, everything. But, I grew up with...
Oh, you should come with me tomorrow to my girl while I do the thing and meet her. Do you want to come?
What time?
10 to 12. It's over in Berkeley.
I have school.
You got school. All right. Well, you know what? It's a long process. Yeah. We're just drawing tomorrow. Yeah. You can come with me when I get it. She's a rad artist. Her name's Hannah Wolf. She's over in Berkeley, and I'm really excited to work with her.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, you gotta, I'm not getting like some anchor or some shit. I'm getting, these are good. She's good. Yeah, she's a good artist. So I'm excited. I'm putting together all the different pieces. She's gonna build them together as an element on my arm. It's probably gonna it's got some prayers in there. It's got all kinds of sacred symbols. And then what I want to do is figure out, because it's like a puzzle, because it's expensive to get. It takes a long time. So, it's probably gonna be, I don't know how many sittings. I'm guessing like 4 or 5 sittings over a long period of time to get it, because it's like $600 a whack, at least. It's like 2 hours is $600. So I'm gonna get them done like a puzzle. So I want to have the whole puzzle and see it, and then decide which pieces to put in so it doesn't look like crap as it's getting done.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. No, I'm very excited. Oh. That was right after I left my husband. I was at an art show. In fact, I don't did we even know each other when the Raw Art Show happened? I don't think we did. You were there taking pictures at the Raw Art Show down on
10:15?
Yeah, 10:15.
Oh, no.
And you saw my art, but you didn't know who I was?
I saw your art, but my friend that I went with was like, oh my God, her art is amazing. I want her to paint me.
Who are they? I'll paint them.
Oh, my friend Crystal. Yeah. She keeps asking. She's
dude,
like,
hook me up.
What, am I just going to be like, hey, can
I would love to.
she doesn't
have to. I mean, I do work on commission, like the ones with the hair like that. Like I do that on commission, but I actually would love to do another one. I would love to paint people. So give me her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I was there and I was having a hard time because, dissolving a marriage, it's all very platonic, but it's really painful. Anyway, and so I painted myself. I painted a big snake on my body. I made my lips green. I teased my hair all out like an 80s bad heavy metal rock person. And I was sitting there talking to this handsome man. Oh my goodness. And also not a young man, a handsome older man. And there was a runway and people were showing fashion. Mm-hmm. And we were looking at fashion, and a lot of the girls there had tattoos. And I've always loved sleeve tattoos. And I said, oh, I would love to get a sleeve tattoo. And he said, why don't you get a sleeve tattoo? I said, I'm too old. And he looked at me and he was like, what? And I was like, oh, right. Like, what difference does that make? Like your mom. Like there's some idea, there's some image, some idea of what was supposed to do based on somebody else's idea. Like, why can't I get a tattoo at 55? So that's what I'm going to do. Plus, my arms look awesome because I work out all the time. I'm rocking 55. I just got to say it. But, yeah. So I think tattoos are great. I think tattoos. Just don't, the only thing is the face tattoo thing. I told my daughter, don't get a tattoo on your face. Unless you're a Maori person.
What about fingers?
Fingers are fine.
Because I would want them on the insides of my fingers.
People do cool stuff. Yeah. There's all, the only thing, the face thing is a little, it depends what you're doing though.
Yeah.
It depends what you're doing. For me, I'm not getting a face tattoo. I'm just going to say that. I'm not getting a face tattoo. I'm probably not going to get a neck tattoo. But I could come back in 3 years and change my mind.
What would you get if you had to get a face tattoo?
Oh, I'd have to think about that for a long time. I can't even.
What wouldn't you get?
I wouldn't. The first thing I see is like those prison tattoos that all bleed out that have like somebody's name on them. I wouldn't get like someone's name written on my forehead. Or a star under my eye. No, or a teardrop. Somebody had teardrops tattooed on their face. Yeah, that's bad face tattoos. No, I don't want a face tattoo. No. That's my
Well, you know what those mean, right?
What?
Teardrops?
No.
On each side of the face it's different, but like this is like you murdered somebody, like, and then each teardrop for each murder.
Nice.
I think.
Yeah, that's what I want. Murdering teardrop tattoos. Yikes. Yeah. Blech. No.
Yeah, that would contradict what you're trying to do.
It is. Well, those people can come and do therapy with me at ReneeMckenna.com. If you want to be on my podcast, you can shoot me a text, 415-672-4992. Or you can shoot me an email, info@ReneeMckenna.com. It's ReneeMckenna.
I'll put that in the description as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Scotty,
I appreciate you.
I love you.
Love you too.
So good to talk today.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.
Thanks for listening today. I'm so grateful for the people that are willing to share their deep experiences with us on spiritual psychology. If you're interested in being on the show, being a guest client, you're welcome to send me an email at info@ReneeMckenna.com, ReneeMckenna. You can also shoot me a text at 415-672-4992. and I'd be happy to set something up. Most of these sessions are recorded over the phone, and I really look forward to spreading this work and helping you if you're interested. Have a great day, and I'll look forward to sharing more of this great work with you in the future.